Welcome back to Apex Sci-Fi. In the world of aviation and space combat, the weakest link in the machine is always the meat. A starfighter can pull a 100G turn without braking. A computer can react in a nanosecond. But the pilot? The pilot is a sack of water and calcium. If you turn too fast, the pilot passes out. If you accelerate too hard, the pilot's heart stops. Alien civilizations respect these limits. They build safety protocols. They value the lives of their trained warriors. But humanity discovered that limits are just suggestions. We found a way to bypass the weakness of the flesh. Not with metal but with chemistry. We created the Berserker Stim. A cocktail of adrenaline, synthetic focus drugs, and pain suppressors that turns a normal human into a biological supercomputer with a death wish. Today's story is about the Battle of the Red Nebula, where the galaxy learned that a human pilot on Stims is not flying a ship. He is the ship. If you think safety regulations are boring, smash that like button. And if you want to see what happens when adrenaline hits 500%, subscribe and ring the bell. Injecting combat mix. Heart rate spiking. Let's fly. Flight leader Corral of the Vexian Empire was bored. His interceptor, the Void Dancer, was a marvel of ergonomic design. The inertial dampeners were set to a comfortable 98%. The targeting computer handled the complex math of deflection shooting. Corral simply had to guide the ship and press the button. He watched the human squadron on his scanner. They are sluggish, Corral noted, his voice smooth over the comms. Look at their turns. What? Slow. They are afraid of GLOC, G-force-induced loss of consciousness. Their biology is weak. The Vexian pilots were genetically engineered for spaceflight. They had secondary hearts to pump blood to the brain under pressure. They could sustain 15 GS without blinking. The humans, by comparison, blacked out at 9 GS. Engage, Corral ordered. Cut them apart. Do not let them retreat. The Vexian squadron dove. They performed maneuvers that defied physics, sharp, angular turns that would snap a human neck. They danced around the Terran fighters, peppering them with plasma fire. The human ships, the F-99 Wraiths, tried to keep up but they were outclassed. I can't shake him, a human voice panicked over the open frequency. He's on my 6. I'm pulling 8 GS, I'm graying out. Boom. A human fighter exploded. Then another. Corral smiled. Like shooting bloated fish in a barrel. Finish them. Inside the cockpit of Wraith 1, Colonel Jack Ripper Vance watched his squadron die. His vision was tunneling. The grayout was creeping in at the edges of his sight. His G-suit was squeezing his legs so hard it bruised the bone, trying to keep the blood in his brain. They're too fast, Colonel, his wingman gasped. We can't turn with them. We're gonna die out here. Vance looked at the safety limiter switch on his dashboard. It was currently set to on. It prevented the ship from performing maneuvers that would kill the pilot. He looked at the red-covered switch next to it. The label read, Protocol Berserk. Underneath, a warning, lethal side effects. Use only in extreme circumstances. Vance's breathing was heavy. He watched another friend turn into a fireball. Squadron, Vance said, his voice cold and hard. Listen to me. Safety's off. Prepare for injection. Colonel? A rookie voice trembled. The doc said if we use the stim for more than 5 minutes, our hearts will explode. If we don't use it, the Vexians will vaporize us in 2, Vance snapped. I'd rather die of a heart attack than let these lizards win. On my mark. 3, 2, 1. Juice it. Vance flipped the red cover. He pressed the button. A pneumatic hiss sounded in the cockpit. A needle extended from the headrest, piercing the base of his skull, directly into the spinal column. The Berserker Stim hit his bloodstream. It wasn't like coffee. It wasn't like energy drinks. It felt like being electrocuted by God. Pain vanished. Fear vanished. Time stopped. Or rather, Vance's perception of time accelerated so drastically that the world seemed to slow down. His pupils dilated until his eyes were entirely black. His heart rate jumped from 120 to 240 beats per minute. The capillaries in his eyes burst, turning the whites red. The grayout at the edges of his vision receded, replaced by a hypersharp, high-contrast clarity. He could see the individual rivets on the Vexian ship 3 kilometers away. He could see the exhaust pulses of their engines. Oh yeah, Vance whispered. His voice sounded distorted in his own ears, deep and demonic. That's the stuff. He grabbed the control stick. Computer. Disengage G-limiters. Warning, G-force will exceed human tolerance. I'm not human right now, Vance snarled. Do it. Limiters disengaged. Corral was lining up a shot on the lead human fighter when the telemetry changed. The human ship didn't bank. It didn't curve. It whipped around. The Wraith performed a 180-degree flip in less than a second. The G-force required to do that was 45 gs. Inside the cockpit, Vance's ribs cracked under the pressure. His lung tissue tore. He didn't care. The stim blocked the pain signals. The stim told him he was invincible. He laughed. A wet, gurgling laugh as blood filled his mouth. Target lock, Vance thought. He didn't even need to speak. His hands moved faster than thought. He pulled the trigger. The Vexian interceptor behind him didn't even have time to raise shields. It flew directly into a stream of 30mm depleted uranium rounds. Shred. The alien ship disintegrated. What? Corral gasped. Impossible. That maneuver should have liquefied the pilot. Leader, his wingman screamed. They are all doing it. Look at them. The human squadron had transformed. They were no longer flying like disciplined soldiers. They were flying like rabid wasps. They were pulling turns that stripped the paint off their own hulls. They were accelerating so hard their engines were melting. A human fighter rammed a Vexian drone, slicing it in half with its wing and kept flying. They have abandoned self-preservation. Corral shouted. Evasive maneuvers. Pattern Delta. The Vexians tried to dance. But you cannot dance with a berserker. A berserker doesn't care if you step on his toes. He just wants to bite your throat out. Vance saw Corral's ship, the leader. The world was red. A crimson filter overlaying the stars. Kill him. Kill him. Kill him. The chemical voice in his head chanted. Vance pushed the throttle past 110%. The Wraith screamed. He dove straight at the Vexian leader. He is going to ram. Corral yelled, pulling up. Vance didn't ram. He slammed the air brakes at Mach 2. The deceleration was 60 gs. Vance's retinas detached. He was blind now. But he didn't need eyes. He had the radar audio tone. Bip. Die, Vance whispered. He fired a missile volley at point-blank range. The missiles slammed into Corral's engines. The Vexian ship spun out of control, flaming. How? Corral transmitted over the open frequency as his ship burned. How are you doing this? You are biological. You have limits. Vance keyed his mic. He spat blood onto the dashboard. We turned them off. The battle lasted 3 minutes. It was the longest 3 minutes in the history of the sector. The Vexian squadron was wiped out. Not a single ship escaped. The human ships drifted in the void. The stim was wearing off. And the crash was coming. Squadron, report, Vance wheezed. The pain was returning. It hit him like a freight train. Every broken bone, every torn muscle, every ruptured vessel screamed at once. Wraith 2, dead, the AI reported. Pilot cardiac arrest. Wraith 3, dead. Stroke. Wraith 4, alive. Unconscious. Vance looked at his hands. They were trembling so hard they were blurring. His flight suit was soaked in sweat and blood. He checked his biomonitor. Heart rate, 300. Dropping. Blood pressure, critical. Organ failure, multiple. He reached for the emergency medical injector, the come-down shot. A mix of sedatives and nanobots to patch the damage before he died. He jammed it into his leg. The world went gray. Then black. Mission accomplished. He mumbled before the darkness took him. Vance woke up 3 weeks later in a regeneration tank. He had to have a new heart grown. His eyes were replaced with cybernetics. His bones were reinforced with carbon fiber because the originals had turned to powder. The doctors called it a miracle. The generals called it a victory. The Vexians called it the madness. The Vexian Empire signed a non-aggression pact a month later. They included a specific clause. Human vessels are forbidden from using chemical enhancement class Omega in neutral space. They weren't afraid of our ships. Our ships were junk. They were afraid of the demons inside the cockpit. They realized that you can't fight a species that treats its own body like ammunition. A species that will burn its own soul just to watch you burn with them. We call it the Berserker Stim. But the pilots have a different name for it. They call it the Equalizer. Because in space biology is a weakness. Unless you decide to break it. This has been apex sci-fi. The human body is a temple. But sometimes, in war, you have to burn the temple down to kill the invaders inside. If you think adrenaline is the ultimate superpower, hit that like button. Comment below. Would you take the shot if it meant you became a god for 5 minutes but might not wake up? Subscribe. And check your blood pressure. Stim cycle complete.